It's good to be with you all.
You
I know. I'm
too.
so excited.
Yes. So first, let me say welcome everyone who is watching. We are officially live to start off this conversation. So as you are coming in, my ask is that as you are coming in, share it so that this conversation can continue to grow and grow. I'm so excited because one, I feel like this is definitely at the top of mind in our neighborhood and in our community. So I think it's super important that as we are questioning and trying to figure out our next steps, that we are also coming together with some solutions. And so Mr. Williams is now here, so we're going to join in um, and get started. Hey, Ted.
Hey, everybody, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey.
Cool. So we're going to before we get started in the actual conversation, first, as I was saying, welcome everyone to Remixing the Narrative. My real push for this platform is that we're able to have real conversations that's impacting our community, in particular, being able to be solution oriented as well. And so the conversation for today, it is a community town hall, and it's all about remote learning and the Black community. However, we know that it's going to stream into some other subtopics as well. And so before we dive straight in, I would love to start to my right, looking on the screen, to Jillian, and we'll just go and introduce ourselves to those who are watching who may not know us.
Yes, so thanks for having me, Jarima. My name is Jillian Carew. I have dedicated the last decade plus of my life's work around education. I've been a teacher, a leader, and I'm currently serving as an education consultant. And a lot of my work is around equity and how we can use that lens through everything that we do.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
Okay, I'll take it next. Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. I am Dr. Femi Skanes. I am commonly known as the principal of Morgan Park High School, but I'm really excited in the last couple of years to be venturing off into my own LLC, Leadership Edge, and EDGE is an acronym for Educational Design Generating Excellence. And so any of my views expressed today are on behalf of Leadership Edge and not necessarily the views of Chicago Public Schools.
Awesome.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Williams, and I teach political science at Kennedy King College. I'm the chairman of the social sciences department there. Outside of my education and teaching life, I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a theater production company. I just recently finished a run of a musical production called 1619, The Journey of the People, which is a 2-hour musical about the 400-year anniversary of African Americans in this country. And so we're very excited to be a part of this conversation and are really looking forward to continuing to engage in the community because as I've seen, and I know that you all have as well, that our work for those of us who are serving in the community is not stopping during this time. In fact, it might be actually even greater. And so I'm grateful to Jarima for having me and looking forward to talking to everyone tonight.
Yes. And so this conversation, as many of you probably have been experiencing, actually came from just conversations I'm having, not only in my role as a teacher, but also as a parent, as a friend, as a sister, just really like, what are we doing? I think Friday, could have heard a pin drop when they made the official announcement that we are officially remote learning, and so many emotions came with that. For some, it was like, I knew it was coming. For others, it's added frustration and desperation because of maybe they already have other situations they're working through. And I think the ultimate question, though, is how are we going to really move forward knowing that this is now our new normal? I love a quote, and one of my best friends, Jadon, that some of you know, we are always talking about everything that we speak of, we end with, but how are the children, right? So we can be like X, Y, and Z is happening, but how are the children? And so before we land and end with that question, I actually want to start with, since we do have such a diverse panel as of now, the first question I have is, how are the administrators? So since we have a few people on this panel who have different roles on elementary, high school, collegiate levels, how are you? Like once you heard or just through this time, like what has been kind of like top of mind talk amongst your circles?
Well, I don't mind starting. My name is Jasmine Thurmond. I am principal within Chicago Public Schools and elementary school, King Academy of Social Justice. And I also want it to be known that everything that I say is a representation of me personally, not me representing Chicago Public Schools. But with that being said, I will say that as an administrator, this is definitely a challenging time because while we are trying to figure things out to best support students, we're also trying to ensure that the people who are on the front lines, our teachers and support staff, are adequately supported and really, ensure that they have everything they need to be successful. And so, oftentimes, it's a bit overwhelming for us to try and ensure that all of those, all of the minor steps or the initial steps are completed before we're able to roll things out to our school communities. But I will definitely say that it has been great working closer with some of my colleagues, and so we've been able to collaborate and just we've been able to give a lot of thought to the processes that we're implementing. And so, although it's a bit challenging and overwhelming, I do feel good about the leadership that we have in place.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say from our end, working with the college level population, our students are really, actually, to be frank with you, I would say it is a 50-50 split. I think 50% of our students are transitioning well to the online platforms, and those students who were kind of doing well already are continuing their work. The challenge is for those students who were on the fringes initially, and the move from live face-to-face instruction to online instruction has not been smooth for a large number of students that we serve. Additionally, we also are seeing the technological gaps that exist in our communities.
Yeah.
We have parents, a lot of our population is, we have single parents, people who are working multiple jobs. And I can tell you from many conversations that I've got a number of parents who are fighting between their kids doing their work with their computers, them doing their own work, trying to care for them in the midst of this. And really, we have been working in our department level and the college level and the district for city colleges as well, all 7 schools, at trying to create instruction that is still has integrity and it's rigorous and yet is accommodating for the challenge that we're in now. And I think that's critical for all educators. The children and the students that we deal with, mine are not children, they're adults, but they're dealing with this crisis just as much as anyone else is. And I think being a parent as well, having 3 children, I've seen my own children and their own insecurities and fears in the middle of this time. And I do find that, some of us educators get extra excited when the the technology allows for us to do more work. And I think that, some of us have had to sort of step back a little bit and not sort of inundate our students with an additional amount of work that they may or may not be able to complete in the midst of a global pandemic that we are all kind of together. And I think we have to be very sensitive to the stresses that exist and try to create experiences that are still pushing forward educational goals, but being sensitive to the times in which we're all facing.
Yeah.
So, I would definitely echo what both of my colleagues had to say. But going back to the original question, and it's a question that we don't ask most of the time, is how are the administrators? And if I could be quite candid, I would say not well. We have been taught, trained, brought up in this leadership, especially being Black in America, being Black in Chicago, and, having very tough roles. We learn how to get out front and lead, and we're strong, and that's what people see. So people have seen the strength, but what people really haven't seen is the weakness behind the scenes. You know, when we're watching the press conferences, when we are combing through our emails, when we're trying to make sense of, you know, how the information is rolling out and trying to present it to our communities in a way that's manageable for them. But yet we're still human, and you know, we still have our own safety concerns, and we're concerned about our own children, we're concerned about our own families. And to be quite candid, most of my administrative friends that I'm talking to, we're not well. We're probably at the peak of our stress in terms of our administrative trajectory, and it's tough. You know, it's been a lot of tears, a lot of frustration. I would definitely agree with you know, with my colleague Jazz. Well, you know, she's Jazz to me, you know, Thurmond. I would
Jazz, all of us.
that, one of the best parts about it, though, is that I have strengthened some relationships with colleagues that I've had a chance to work with differently, because we've had to be thought partners, and in a strange kind of way, we've had more time to be thought partners. But to answer very simply, I can say for me, not well.
And I think it's so important that you even said that, because I think the reason I want to start with this question is because I know for me, on speaking as just myself, but I'm also a teacher and a parent, my thought is, have the administration even considered us, right? So they're saying we got to do this and do that. And it could be, of course, in a very stressful time, we're trying to figure out, okay, do you understand where we're coming from? And I think it's very hard for us sometimes to think about the other side, which is also unique, is that, yeah, you all are administrators, but you have so many different hats that you wear, right? So even as Ted even alluded to, which is the next question that we'll dig into, is, yeah, I'm an administrator. Yeah, you know, I'm making these decisions, but I'm also a parent. So I'm hearing news just as you're hearing news, and trying to figure out for all these other babies, but I got to think about my own babies as well. Anything want to add anything to the conversation about the administrator? What do you say is one of the things then, as a parent, you would want from the administrative lens for us to best understand?
You know, for me, I would say to the parents, I get it. I have 2 kids that are seniors. So, you know, the heartache and finally allowing the tears to well in my eyes on Friday, like the reality is setting in, like I won't get to see my daughter, you know, go on prom and all of that kind of stuff. However, you know, so I get it from the parent lens. For me, I would beg of our parents to just give us just a little bit of patience, because literally as soon as the governor or the mayor comes out with a press conference, you know, we get questions of things that we couldn't possibly have the answers to 30 seconds later. So I would just ask that parents trust that we really do hear your questions. We really do take them into consideration. And we need, most of the time, at least 48 hours to be able to respond. And so we're not being evasive. You know, we didn't have a secret piece of information that we didn't share. We're getting it. We're planning for it. So give us at least 48 hours.
Yeah, I would add to that. I think so. So I'm not a parent, but I will say, in terms of my colleagues and myself, we do our best to communicate as frequently and as thoroughly as possible. And even in the midst of that, there are oftentimes gaps within that communication. And I've recognized that can be pretty frustrating, but I ask parents to just truly give us the benefit of the doubt. It is not intentional, it's not malicious in terms of those communication gaps. And so those are things that we are refining. You know, we're consistently hearing that these are unprecedented times, and that's for everyone, including us. And so just give us the benefit of the doubt. We know you guys are struggling, but we want to be here for you, and anything that we can do to support you, we will.
So I'm glad you led with that, Jazz, not being a parent, because neither am I. And I do want to add to the discussion, because I feel like sometimes that is used as a way to discredit the views of those of us who don't have children. And I can speak from this lens, being a daughter to my mother as a child in Chicago public schools. And I can also speak to my experience in my life coaching business. And also, I mean, you could look on Facebook threads and see what the parents are thinking and feeling as it relates to this. And I think your initial question, Jarima, was around, if as a parent, what would you want administrators to know? And so because we kind of veered off into administrators and about what they need from parents, I think it's an indication that we are not recognizing and seeing our parents in the way that we need to. And so, like I said, you could scroll down Facebook, you'll see stress. They have a lot going on. It's a lot that's being required of them at this time to be homeschool teachers. They didn't sign up to be teachers. So they're dealing with a lot. And I think that it's important for administrators, as being a former administrator myself, and I'm not perfect at all, don't get me wrong, but that we have to start to refocus kind of on what's important in this moment. And it starts with listening to those who are directly impacted.
I would respectfully disagree in one of the comments that you made. So I do agree. In fact, I can't even express wholeheartedly. I think it's so important to listen to parents because that really helps to guide your decisions that you make. And I think as administrators, if we're not listening to parents, that's a critical flaw in our leadership. Like, we have to be listening to them, because the more you listen to them, the better you are at really making decisions that make a difference. Because other than that, I always ask people, if you're not listening to the parents, you're not listening to the kids, who are you making decisions for, right? Like, other than that, you're just flying by the seat of your pants. But I think just because we bring in the voice of the administration doesn't mean that we're discrediting their voice. It's just that I'll be honest in saying that we don't often have a forum where we also get to talk about how we feel. So just because we bring in how we feel doesn't mean that by any stretch of the imagination that we're not concerned and conscious about them. Because if I could be honest, the reason I have been tossing and turning for the last month is less about my own children and more about everybody else's kids. Because to be honest with you, I know that my kids can be okay, but my sleepless nights, my restless nights are for the families that don't have, it's for the kids that don't have, it's for the parents that don't have a voice. So just because we highlight what we're feeling, I don't mean that in a way to discredit what our parents are feeling.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if you took it that way, because that wasn't the goal. I just really wanted to hear, I think Jarima's question was around, as a parent, so from the lens of being a parent, what do you want administrators to know? And I don't think that I heard that.
Yeah.
Got you. Well, this is actually a perfect segue, because our next piece in this, I'm actually going to bring in a family. So the reason I was so excited about this panel is because I'm going to have such a diverse people coming in and out. We're actually going to bring in a family. And so it's not only just a family, but their kids as well. Because I want to hear, I think it's important that we are sharing from our lenses as parents, as administrators, school leaders, but also what are the kids feeling, right? And then what are some of the actual parents feeling? So we're going to bring in actually our first family. We'll have two that come on, which is the Stiles family. And here they come. Hey, y'all.
We looking rough over here.
Y'all look real quarantine. That's what y'all look like. Y'all look like y'all making it work.
Yeah.
So the last comment, as we're going into the section of how are the parents, one of the comments that just came in was from Sandra Robinson. She put in, parents and grandparents are struggling. So that is what her comment was. And she asked, tell us how to help. So that's the next thing she's asking. So before we get into that about like how are the parents, let's start with this first set of the new added group. And can you all just kind of go around and share who you are and ages for the kids so we can know who's joining this conversation? Starting with whoever.
Start here. What's your name? Jordan. And how old are you? 11. Back there.
My name is Blake. I'm 13.
13. He's an 8th grader. And my name is Sheridan. Speak up so they can hear you.
I'm 12 and I'm in 7th.
And what's your name? Sheridan.
I'm Eric. I'm 43, the dad.
You gotta tell your age.
You gotta tell your age, Daddy.
I didn't know we were telling ages.
I love it.
Well, I'm not telling my
If I had known we were telling ages, I would be off this call real quick. You know what I mean?
Ain't afraid. Ain't afraid.
Exactly. I'm the mother. I'm Shannon.
Cool. And so we'll have you all kick it off, because we're going to start this piece of how are the parents, because we heard, and I think we're going to kind of intertwine going back and forth in those questions, but I do want us to hear directly. And you all are in the south suburbs.
Yeah.
So you all have kind of a little bit of a perspective of how it was rolled out there. But how are the parents? Let's hear how some parents are feeling.
I'm not well. I'm struggling. Like whatever that title say, I'm struggling. I didn't process it very well when I got that young announcement from JB about the whole school year. One, because I have an 8th grader who I won't be able to see go across the stage, but I already kind of felt that they were going to cancel the whole school year because other states were doing it. So we're gonna just do a private ceremony here at the house, and I've already ordered him a cap and gown just so it can be memorable. And just have to be creative in that way. As far as the teachers, I'm a teacher myself, so I teach as a instructor at Dunbar High School. So not only do I have to meet with some of my students on Zoom, I also have to help get my kids, and all together collectively, they have 18 teachers. So that right there, and especially when you email, and we don't have Google Classroom, so they don't have to sit in front of the computer while they look at the rest of their class. That's not an option. Literally, they have packets. All of them have packets. All of them have projects and assignments and stuff, and we have to literally take a picture of it, send it to the teacher. They have to do a lot of quarantine, a lot of research, and just splitting the computer time amongst them. Luckily, we have different devices. Luckily, because we didn't get computers, so that wasn't an option for us. But luckily, we had that in the house for them. I think the frustrating thing for me is I love my husband. But like today, I think I was at my wit's end because I'm like, I gotta go. What you mean you gotta go? Like, I ain't trying to be nobody's teacher. I'm just being honest. And then it's like we gotta fix them breakfast, lunch. I'm a lunch lady. I'm helping with math. I'm like trying to set up the email. It just got overwhelming. Then I just found myself yelling at them like, "Well, I'm confused. What are you confused? Did you read it? Did you read it? Like." And then I don't even have the role of being mommy because I need time for myself at the end of the day. So
let me ask this. They didn't, as far as the directions that you all are getting, it's all packets, is no live instruction?
No live instruction. And so that right there, I'm like, oh my God. And then even trying to email them only one teacher out of 18 has been responsive. And I have emailed, I've done Class Dojo, I've done the district website. You can't call the school. They have like different sign-ins for their district website. I can't sign in. It's like there's no resources, but they want us to do like a survey. And I'm like, I can't even get to the survey, so that right there, I don't like the communication. I understand it's a lot on the teachers, but it's a lot for us on the parents because we're not only hearing from you as their one teacher. We're hearing from the math teacher and the science teacher and this, and then the login doesn't work for my daughter, but it works for my son. So then I had to call, hey, can we use my email because the other email ain't working? Well, I don't know why it's working. I don't know either. So can we figure it out? So I mean that right there is frustrating. And then I don't even know if they're going to be given a grade because they're taking the pictures. I'm a lot more of a harsher educator than maybe they're used to. And I'm really trying to back up, but I want to make sure that my 8th grader is ready for high school because there's nobody gonna spoon feed him, and like he gotta read. You gotta read. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. And so I'm trying to prepare him for high school during these final times, but it's overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie.
So I gotta jump in here because this is really about remote learning in the Black community.
Yeah, here we go.
Here's where I find myself appalled. So, and this is a question that I think is a fair question to your district. How are they expecting kids to do work if there's no instruction?
Exactly.
If they can already do the work, that they're not learning anything new, and our kids cannot get left behind while we are quarantined. So at some point they have to provide some instruction that provides some new skills. I think that's a very legitimate and fair question to ask. How are our kids going to get new skills if all they're doing is packets? That's called review work, and you don't get you don't move forward by continuing to do review. I think that that's something as a parent that you got to push.
Yep. And I totally agree, because they have, like, it's so overwhelming because they have different class. So she's in my daughter's in honors enriched math, right? So they have a class for that, and then it's another group for the science, because he goes to a STEM school and she goes to an art school. So it's just like trying to go into the different schools, because it's different. They're not even in the same school. They go to 3 different schools. So that's number one. And then 2, you see all the other kids chiming in. I just woke up. How do I get on this? How do I know what? And it's like, that's distracting, because then I have to chime in like I'm my son, and I'm speaking whole sentences, and I might throw an emoji in there so they think it's him. He like, I don't even talk like that. Well, whatever. I need this question to get answered at the end of the day. I'm just saying, it's just overwhelming. If I wasn't the type of parent that I am, I mean, I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, if I was the type of parent to be like, look, I graduated school. This ain't my work. You got to graduate. You know, like, these kids going to be left behind. It's so serious. They're not doing nothing new.
But even to what you're saying, Shannon, and even what I love what Dr. Skanes just said, is at the end of the day, if I'm a student and I'm getting packets of work, I already know what that meant when school was in session, right? Like this, why am I even going to be invested in what I'm getting, first of all? So yeah, you have this stress as a parent, but I also think, like, as kids, we're wondering, like, because on my end of being a teacher, we're like, well, kids aren't turning in the work, or they don't seem like they're interested. And there's so many different factors that go into why that is. But first of all, why did you think that was the best decision to give me a packet of work? Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. And secondly, I'm not going to do it because guess what? I know you're not going to grade a packet of work. You're not going to grade all of my classmates' packets of work. So yeah, whatever, you know, so it's already showing, I think, as a child, like, to their mental, like, the investment you have in me while I'm at home, right?
Yeah.
I'm not about to do work, because guess what? You never did it when we was in school either. Anyway, you know what I mean? So just them, I think, and as you were just saying, they're all at different grade levels. That's definitely is a true question that I see even as people are managing on here. But that was the first thing that came out of me, like a packet of work, and then the way we're communicating is through email. Like, how's that going?
Yeah, and then, like, because I mean, this is a home, so even them working at a desk, they getting sleepy. So I'm like, okay, get up, come on, let's move around. Because now even the gym teacher sent a packet of gym work of exercises, which is fine. That's fine. But I'm saying, like, it's like, come on, get up. Come on, you got to move around. They getting bored just sitting in one place because this is not a classroom setting. So I think because my kids get out of school May 29th or May 28th, I think they just was like, okay, you got 3 weeks to finish this, and then another 3 weeks, and then school is out. You see what I'm saying? So it's not even no daily learning. It's just like, do this for 3 weeks, and then y'all out of school.
Like, and you know what?
I'm sorry. Yeah, if I could just offer.
They all happy.
Yeah. Well, I'll say something, because I see some of the comments in the Facebook live feed, and
I was going to say, getting people's comments in.
Yeah, I was actually going to kind of say, and I think some of the people are saying, I think that we all, and I'm not, you know, my kids are in a private school, and they're going through some of the same challenges, right? So they're not in CPS, and they're not in one of the suburban public schools. They're in a small private school, not wealthy, et cetera. It's in, you know, South suburbs, is, you know, whatever. But I think what we have got to figure out here is kind of how we all get through this, right? Because although I am fully with them and I'm fully about holding these teachers and administrators accountable, they're kind of in the middle of this global pandemic too, right? And so what's happening is that they're thinking, okay, we're out for 2 weeks, I think someone said, and they're giving packets and that kind of thing, and they're managing their own family situations. And even I've seen, like, in our situation, you know, sometimes the timing of, even for us, the Zoom classrooms, which we do get, but they might be inconsistent because they're trying to figure out and change it. And I mean, this is not something any of us were prepared for. Okay. And I do think, and I will agree wholeheartedly with the administrators online here, that administrators and teachers have got to be accountable. But I also recognize that this is a very non-traditional situation. I was talking to one of my students who, her whole line was, yes, I'm doing this, Professor Williams, but I never signed up for this. I never signed up to be doing this online. I don't know what I'm doing. And even for us at the college level, we were not trained as online instructors. Blessedly, a lot of us already had our sort of online shells ready to go, and they were a supplement to our live instruction. So someone like myself, I just flipped over to Zoom and kept my stuff, and we kept rolling. But there are large, I said students were left behind. There are a lot of teachers who've been left behind too, and don't know what the heck they're doing at this time. So, I know that there's, a lot of sort of accountability to be had, which there should be. The kids at the end of the day, it's got to be service. But I do want us to recognize that this is a once in a lifetime situation that we're all in. And we got to figure out how to do this together. And maybe, just maybe, parents, once again, thank you, Jarima, for hosting this conversation, because maybe there are resources right here. Maybe the school is not like figuring it out, but there are educators at the table right now. I know there are educators on Facebook Live right now. I see them pop in their comments. Maybe they can help support a family like the Stiles family and other families to kind of get the supplemental educational information, resources, and activities that they need.
I'm gonna have you go, and then I'm gonna pull some comments up in too. So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of things. I can't even imagine the stress that you're going through right now with multiple kids, right? So bless your ministry. Okay. Now, in terms that there are a couple of things that I want to explain. One is I think because we consider school to be an all-day activity, then sometimes we expect for our kids at home to be learning all day, right? And that's actually not a best practice, right? So there are a set amount of minutes that kids should be getting in terms of educational content right now in this remote learning setting, all right? And so that varies anywhere from like 60 minutes per day for pre-K, as advised by the Illinois State Board of Education, to 3 hours, so 180 minutes per day for students in 6th grade and up. Well, 6th through 8th grade. I'm not sure about high school. Now, so that's one thing that I want you to think about, okay? So if you got your babies and you trying to get them sitting down for 4 hours, nope, that's not gonna happen. Because guess what? It don't even happen in school. And when we try to do it in the school building, the kids go bonkers. Okay?
Yeah, I give them breaks. I give them like 10-minute breaks after each subject so they can walk around. Then lunch break is 30 minutes because I need it. Just so I can go in my room and close the door. I'm just saying.
Yep. And so the other thing that I want you to know is that there are various components that should be happening within that block of their learning. So it should be a combination of skills practice. It should include some enrichment. It should also include like some projects and social emotional learning. So all of that fits within either the 60-minute chunk that pre-K kids are supposed to engage in a day, or the 180-minute chunk that our middle school kids should be engaging in. And so one of the things that I really want to encourage parents who are listening in, please, if you do nothing else, ensure that your kids are doing independent reading during this time.
But writing. They got to kick in that writing too.
Yes, because when they get to Dr. Skanes, they're gonna be all jacked up if they ain't been writing. but real talk,
like creative writing.
So here's the thing: as long as they're reading, they can write so they can write a response to the reading. They can write poetry. They can do all kinds of reading and writing. But simply engaging in that is going to strengthen their higher order thinking skills. And although it might not be what we typically think is direct instruction or beneficial instruction, it's still helping their learning. So if nothing else, engage your babies in at least 30 minutes of reading per day at minimum.
And the reason that I have to, I definitely 100% agree with what Jazz is saying. But the reason that I keep pushing the writing is because that's actually we're talking about not just remote learning, but we're talking about our kids learning, our Black babies learning. And the gap is actually with writing. Writing, you can read and never write, but you can't write and not read. And so if you are having your kids just write every day, you could have your kids spend 10, 15 minutes writing about What was the best part of the day? Which one of my friends do I miss and why? You can have them watch a bit of the news and write about it. I'm going to say that one of the biggest gaps that I see educationally is our kids just being able to write. And actually, one of my friends who we've been together for a minute, Markina Williams, is on the Facebook Live, and we were just talking about this. The gap that we're seeing when we're talking about technology is something even as simple as our baby still struggling to compose an appropriate email. Let them practice that skill with you. They email you, you email them back. Let them email an auntie and email them back. Because we think that sometimes because our kids have a device in their hand, that they know how to use technology. The type of skills that you use for TikTok are not the type of skills that I expect you to use for your academic technology. So parents can really just take this time to say, every day we're going to send each other one email. No, sweetheart, you don't write 2 sentences in the subject line, right?
Yeah.
So, those kind of skills.
And hit it on the head, because now they send their own emails because they have to email each teacher. It's no way that I can possibly do that. I'm teaching them about credit. I'm teaching them about what else did I teach you guys about? About insurance, about like what? Let them talk. What? How credit works. Today he had to do writing. They always do writing. Another great skill is instead of them texting you as their parent, writing a letter to each other. You know what I mean? Now, when they do write a letter, I do send it back with correction. I'm just saying, because I mean, they do need to know how to write. The fact that it needs to be legible where I can read it, because that may be a complaint that the teachers have, like I can't read what they're writing. You know what I'm saying? So that creative writing is very important. And the breaks are very, very, very important, especially for me. I'm just saying.
And so I was going to say, and I just have a very quick tidbit. I know, Jeremy, you're going to bring up some of the questions, but thank you for your hard work with that. And I think this is now the time to actually observe how your student or your child is actually engaging with the work. What are their strengths?
Yes.
Who are they most successful? Maybe you learned that your baby can knock out work by standing up instead of sitting down. So that when school does resume, you as the parent will have a different lens to say, hey, I talked to a parent on the phone the other day. She said, I don't understand how my kid has straight A's when they are struggling immensely.
Yes, that's what we're going to talk. Yes.
As a parent, you didn't know that until a situation like this had to happen, where you're able to walk them through and see that. So my call to action is twofold, right? Because we're talking about Black kids. The first is, don't stress out. Use this as an opportunity to observe and document so that you can advocate. The second thing is, I really want parents to start advocating with the district now, because the truth is, across this country, there are districts who, as soon as this stuff came out, sent every single family a laptop. They didn't ask if you already have a device. They didn't ask if you, it was just, we as a district have budgeted in the way that we're going to make sure every single student get what they need. And so that to me really what the conversation should be about, because I totally agree with what Dr. Skanes is saying. If they're not having access to new content, then how are they moving forward? And so I want you as a parent and the rest of the parents to be empowered to reach out to the district and say, how is it that their white counterparts, the wealthy, well-off districts, are doing what they need to do to make sure every single student has a device, and we don't have that? So there are districts that are doing that, and there are districts that are not, for a number of reasons. I'm not saying we have, just everywhere, but I think it just needs to be a different priority when we're talking about Black and brown kids.
Mm-hmm. So I want to pull up some of the comments, and so it's actually going to segue perfectly to the next piece. So the first comment, as we see on here, is, as we've already mentioned, that the factors that teachers have children and families that they're also trying to manage through this pandemic. Also, Antonio brought up the fact that his school, we gave out packets, but that's when we thought it was only 2 weeks, right? Yep. So our initial giving it out wasn't because I don't think this was best, but this is what we thought was best at the time. Another comment is that, that's why I didn't send home a packet of work. There is where my integrity comes in as an educator. I'm best for my students. And I think that kind of goes back to Antonio's comment. It's not necessarily that teachers may not have the integrity or whatever the case may be, but they're figuring out things on their own as well. So at the time, that's what they had that was best. You all are giving us some amazing comments. Let me see. Next. They said, she said her feelings is that they're getting paid. So I think this is one of the questions you asked JT about, like, what does she feel like CPS could have been doing more? They're getting paid, so they should be teaching. We review no grades or feedback. The principal doesn't seem to require it. They have school through June. So I think that this has been some of the push I've heard, especially when it came out. Okay, can grades count towards their grades or not? Or could the work hurt their grade? And I know that's something I've heard a lot for parents that I teach. I'm like, okay, once y'all said these grades wasn't gonna hurt, that in itself kind of like took my kid out the game, and I'm trying to motivate them to get back. But I think that also goes to a conversation about our mindset about grades, because grades, as Jillian just said, I don't think that's a true measure of your academic success. So guess what? The best feedback you're getting back is what you see in front of you. If that baby's struggling through that worksheet, that's the best feedback that I think you could receive, because it's real time feedback. Go ahead, Ted.
I just hop in quickly. I just want to highlight one of the things the Stiles family said, which I really, really like. She said, I'm teaching the kids about credit. I'm teaching the kids about these other sort of life skills that they would not get. I think we've got to look at this. There's an old saying that says the word crisis in the Chinese language and the word opportunity come from the same word. And so while we are in the midst of this global crisis, this pandemic, we have to also recognize that there is a massive amount of opportunity that exists alongside with this. And so as she is saying, I know for me as a parent, I'm getting to know my kids in ways that I never knew them before a month or two ago. And I get to see their character differently, and I get to understand sort of who they are in a different way. And also what a great opportunity to develop the other side of them. No parent, most of the parents here are not going to, sort of give the same level of academic instruction that they would get in the classroom. The parents are not prepared for that in many ways, but what they can do is they can take time working on their kids' character. They can take time working on the soft skills that are so critical for children to understand that they may or may not get the opportunity to get in this. So I think, I look at, and to all due respect to all the educators here, I know that all of us have these different sort of thoughts and theories about how this works. And so I submit my thoughts humbly in that way, because I know that there are different voices and ideas around the table. But I've always been an advocate of home-based education, meaning that the parents are ultimately the first teachers, and the parents have been the first teachers forever. This is just a chance where this is coming out for real. If you look at Asian culture, for instance, and you look at what is going on in Asian schools and Asian communities, those parents are the critical factor in supplementing all of the instruction that is happening. And I think, unfortunately, in our American culture, and this is a byproduct partially of our stress of working and stress of poverty and stress of all the other things, that as parents, we are kind of used to dropping our kids off and then kind of doing our thing and then kind of picking them up and supporting. And I think this is calling parents to the mat in many ways, not with a negative connotation anyway. I'm not suggesting that they're not, but I think it's a great opportunity for parents to be able to support in the way that they can. And I read I'll say this in closing, I read this comment on social media recently, and I saw someone who was an educator, and they said, well, maybe, just maybe, if we take a step back during this time and we say, yes, these kids are not hitting everything that we want them to hit that they would hit if they were in school, but can we make these kids better people? Can we teach them about the garden in our backyard? Can we teach them how to love their sibling? Can we teach them how to serve their family? If we can accomplish those things, then this crisis that we're facing will become an opportunity.
I'm gonna pause this for a second, because Stiles family, we have another family that's about to come on. I just wanted to say, first and foremost, you all have really and I know the kids are back there, and I know they're trying to act shy, but I know them, they're not shy at all. But I appreciate, as many people I put on here, because Shannon, I believe you spoke a lot of what parents are feeling at this moment. But I think I believe we came to an understanding of that this is also a prime opportunity to kind of unlearn what we believe learning really is, right? And so I think just even some of those main principles, I see Valerie on here. She said, I taught my kids how to play spades. Does that count? It does count, Valerie. You sure did. Because guess what? That's some critical thinking, some problem solving. Yeah. All kind of rules going on in that game. So yes, it definitely counts. Yeah. But I think it's just important that we just kind of unlearn what learning is, right? It's all been based on standardized testing, based on if you made the honor roll. And again, that is not all made equal. And so I just wanted to say, yes.
Sorry, she wanted to say something really quick.
Okay, close out this family. We got the next family waiting. Yeah.
Okay.
What you say, Shannon?
Go ahead. So after was like, y'all saying is like the parents' troubles, and so is the kids, because we have a whole bunch of projects and stuff. And since my phone is restricted, so you can't really get outside like Blake's phone could. But it's like she forces us to do. Oh, you want me to hold it? No, go ahead. She makes us sit down and force us to do on the computer, and then it's just all day. And she was like, "Well, I sleep every 5 seconds, and I do admit that I sleep a lot."
Okay,
But
I think she's done. I don't know.
Joining us, Shannon.
Well, I love you, Stiles family. Please keep on the conversation through the thread. We're gonna pull in the next family, okay?
Okay.
All right, awesome.
While we're pulling in the next family, I have to chime in. I agree with what Ted is saying, that we do have to rethink education. And while teachers and administrators are critically important, we have kind of, in a lot of ways, we've let parents off the hook for their responsibility in educating the whole child. And the way that I explain it to my families is educating the child, it is a pyramid. It's my role, it's our role as the school, it's their role as the parent, and it's the child's role in their own education. And if you take out any one of those pieces, the whole pyramid falls apart. And I do think that this begins to give us some time as parents to say, yeah, we know that, there are a lot of issues, things that prevent us from parenting, but we have to care more than everybody else cares about their education. And it's just that simple. And it's not to place blame, but it is to say, how do we get back to making sure that parents understand, their priority? Completely educating the child, that responsibility should not completely be turned over to the hands of the school.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So as we are segueing to the next question, how are the children? Joseph Williams, I think. Can you hear me, Joe? You on?
Okay, I can hear you real good. What's going on, Jerome?
Hey, Joe. I want you to
doing?
first. We're great. I want you to kind of introduce who you are and the work that you do. And he's a perfect segue to talk about how the children. I'm going to actually use Moesha's quote from the chat to kick off this section as well. But can you just tell us who you are and just what are all the entities and roles you represent?
Okay, cool. So, well, I'm Joseph Williams. I'm the founder of the Mr. Dad's Fathers Club. It's a nonprofit organization created to help get fathers back involved in their children's lives. So we are out in different Chicago public schools, reading books and mentoring kids kind of on a daily basis. Because school is out right now, we are now doing our read a book day that we would usually do in the school every Friday at 12 o'clock now. So every Friday at 12, we read books to the children and just try to boost them up in their self-esteem and just try to have a good old fun day every Friday. Beyond that, previous to some of this stuff, I did run for alderman last year, and I'm always out in the community. I consider myself to be a community organizer because I'm always out in the community trying to find some way to organize to either get, no matter if it's PPE supplies or something free that we can always take back to the community and try to help out.
You also are a father of how many? A husband.
Yeah,
Tell them all your titles, Joe.
I'm sorry. Well, I never go through that. I never talk about it like that for real. I try to stay smooth, but yes, I'm a father and husband. I got 5 children. I also serve on the school board over at Beasley, and I'm on the PAC chair over at Beasley as well, with the parents in particular, with getting parents engaged. So listening to you guys' conversation is definitely some good stuff. And I'll tell you, at least over at Beasley, we got a nice participation with parents for the PAC in particular. We're still trying to get it for the LSE, but for PAC, sometimes it's only standing room. So we do get a nice amount of parents to come out for our PAC meetings for sure. But I think that's it for now. I'm sure it's something else, but I don't want to talk about me. I want to just join in on the conversation
Right.
with you guys.
Awesome. And Jillian was getting excited because she's an alum of Beasley, so she was excited to hear that.
Thank you for your work.
I see Tad on the call too. I know Tad. That's a great motivational speaker right there.
What's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Good to see you, John.
So how are the children? I wanted to read this. There's so many amazing comments coming through, you all. And please, as you all are watching, share. It's going to get more people involved. But I wanted to just read this comment as we talk about how are the children. And she simply was saying that this has a lot to do with the philosophies of the schools. We need to put our children in schools that believe in education and not schooling. There is a difference. We should not just be having these conversations. The Black community has been in an education crisis for a while. We need to unschool. And so I think as we talk about how are the children, this is a perfect segue because I think that there are so many different things that were detrimental and that they needed even before this pandemic, right? And so we can be so like, oh my gosh, they didn't have a Chromebook, oh, they don't have that. But I think that this is a prime opportunity for us to rethink what schools are supposed to be for our babies. And also, how are we supposed to galvanize with the resources? Even on this call alone, we all have networks and connections and people that we could develop what is needed in our individual communities for our kids that have nothing to do with Class Dojo, nothing to do with a packet, all to do with our babies growing and being their best selves. And so I wanted to kick that off with how are the children? We could talk about it from so many different perspectives, but what do we now know is most needed for our kids now and going forward?
Well, number one, they're still kids. And I think that we have forgotten that. I think that we have forgotten that kids are still going through all of the other things that kids will go through. And now they're doing it in a pandemic and it is stressful and they're worried and they have real fears. And so I have this little, I have a Google Meet link I call it like a dummy link, right? So if a parent emails me or if a kid emails me and they need immediate assistance, I can jump on and I can be with them just as if they were walking into my office. And it's really worked because I've been able to walk parents and kids through some things. But long story short, I was on with one of my young people, and during this pandemic, she and her best friends, oh, I miss my babies anyway, but she and her best friend have fallen out during this time. First of all, if you know anything about teenagers, best friends falling out is stressful. But now best friends falling out during a pandemic. So now I'm thinking, how am I going to trick both of them to get them on this Google Meet at the same time? Because we got to solve this situation. The kids are still kids and the kids are stressed and they need us. And I love what Jazz said, like stick to those guidelines. I know we think, oh, they have to be at the breakfast table at 8 and they have to be there to 3. No, they don't. They have to still learn in a way that's feasible. We don't do that to them in school. Like they have periods and everything, but the kids are stressed and they're worried and they're trying to make sense of what all of this means in their life. And think about these 8th graders who, what does this mean? I don't get to graduate. I don't even get to go to freshman open house. For seniors, can you imagine the stress of my dress is paid for, my limo is ordered, now I don't get prom? The kids are worried, and I think that we have forgotten that because all we're talking about is the remote learning, but we need to talk about what are their emotional needs, because if we don't deal with their emotional needs, that's going to show up a whole lot more. The academics will show up, but the emotional stress will show up even more.
Yeah, I want to add to that. You know, we've done a lot of research.
I just want to agree with that 100%.
Wait, Joe, real quick, Jazz talking. I don't think I can hear each other.
Sorry about that. But you know, we've done a lot of research around the impact of adverse childhood experiences, and this is a trauma, right? And so, just again to echo this, to echo what's been said, we have to care for the emotional needs of our kids because it doesn't. It's like it's this weird space, right? Like it's a pandemic. But like you can still go out to the grocery store and to Home Depot with your mama if you need to, right? So it's this really weird space. And so if we don't adequately address the social emotional needs of our babies, it is going to come back to bite us like really, really badly. And so again, the more time we spend with our kids simply talking to them, or having them write letters to themselves, to themselves a year from now, or having them engage with, their peers in talking circles virtually. Those are some of the things that we need to really consider. And that is part of the education that our kids need to be receiving right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe. Joseph, can you hear me?
I can.
I was saying you're on. You can go. I know you want to share.
Oh, okay. I had to pick up my other phone just to hear her talking. I don't know why it knocked out like that. I think they just both said it. Dr. Skanes, shout out to Dr. Skanes. I haven't seen you since you came out, but man, that's she's amazing too. But I just agree with everything that is pretty much said right now. With dealing with the kids and the social emotional learning piece about them being worried. I got a daughter that's in 8th grade right now who's worried about graduation. That's something that I'm over here myself trying to see. Well, I wonder if I can have a graduation for the kids in August, and maybe I'll put together the one myself. I know some people, we get a venue and try to hook it up, but we just still trying to, like, I guess, playing the weight game and not knowing so much. I guess it puts you on the edge. I know, like my baby, same thing that everybody's been saying. The babies are not seeing their friends and things like that, so they kind of been talking about that type of stuff. So I think that's a piece that's important, and I think even going back into school, that should probably be something that should be worked on for probably that first month going back to school. CPS should have some implemented where it's focused on just building up that piece with the kids, because I agree with Dr. Skanes. If we don't work on it even now, as parents, if we don't work on it now, it's going to show. It's going to show this summer. You're going to see it, So we got to just find different things to kind of offer our children and try to help build them up as they go through that, no matter if it's a group call with their friends on the phone or whatever it is. But I'm kind of glad that they've at least started this online, because the kids are getting a chance to see their friends on the online version, and they kind of was happy doing that. So I'm glad that they at least started that so the kids can get that part of it.
Just in
I
terms
want to just highlight some of the comments. I'm sorry. One says, it was talking about SEL, so just that social emotional learning. For many, they're saying this is trauma for students and parents, and some parents don't even know how to explain what's going on either. One comment that I really was thinking about, because I actually had a conversation with one of my girls, that this triggering a lot of grief for them, especially seeing so much death happening around them. That this is actually triggering not maybe necessarily someone that they personally know has died from COVID-19, but they have someone who's died. Like seeing someone else lose their grandmother is triggering when I lost my grandmother. Seeing so many things happen that are so unexpected. And then the last thing I want to pull up is just as he was saying about this is what we could do to help parents, especially for some students who may have also are losing parents during this time as well. So just so many different factors. I just wanted to pull up just about that social emotional, and that these are definitely not only creating new triggers, but reigniting old triggers as well. Jillian.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think these are really great questions to ask, Jarima. How are the parents and how are the students? And while we can speak based on our experience in working with and being those a parent or working with students, I think it's really important that we ask those questions of the specific stakeholder. So as administrators, are we filling or sending out some sort of survey to parents or having one-on-ones with parents? I know we're doing a lot of work with students, but are we asking parents, how are they doing? And then for the parents, like, pulling in your kids and just asking how they're doing. And I know a comment came up around some parents don't even know how to explain what's going on. And I think that it's okay to tell your child, like, I understand, like, I don't have all the answers either. We're in this together. I think that's where the learning happens in terms of being able to navigate these sort of stressful situations. We don't all have the answers, but I think it's important that we actually get the voice of those that we're trying to answer these questions around, so that we're not making sure that our biases and our thoughts around what they are feeling is actually creeping in, but that we're actually getting firsthand information from them themselves.
I'm excited because Kahari Humphreys, I'm not sure if y'all know him. He is an amazing individual I met this school year. He works with Thrive Chicago, and he actually emailed me this today. I know it's covering over some people's faces, but they're actually hosting a virtual SEL resource event for parents, because just that understanding that yes, kids need it, but also parents as well. And he emailed me this today, so I'm actually happy, Kahari, you were able to join on, because this is happening tomorrow. And so as far as the link on how to get on this, parents, I will put it in the comments later, but I did want to show that he's online and he's a great resource when it comes to SEL and just creating spaces for parents. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Dr. Skanes.
One thing that I was going to add, we started the conversation off talking about the administration. And though, you know, my role today is a little bit different as I'm speaking for Leadership Edge, one thing that I want to say about being an administrator is this is not a popularity contest. And so I bring that up because when we first rolled this out and we started talking about live instruction, you know, in some cases, you know, people had questions. Well, do I have to actually be live? And my answer was absolutely yes, you have to be live, because that is a way for kids to be able to connect. And so I said very candidly, if we're not going to be live, then we're no different than Khan Academy, right? So if all you're doing is popping up a video, then how are kids actually connecting with people that they like, or, you know, people that they know and they're familiar with? And I think that that's so important to help kids feel some sense of normalcy and consistency during this time. You know, I've talked to some other administrators and they're like, no, they're not requiring their teachers to provide live instruction. And I'm just kind of concerned about that model. And I do think one parent made a really good point. Teachers are still getting paid, right? So if you're not providing any instruction, then we got to take a step back to say, now what are we doing?
Yeah, if I could echo her comments, I want to agree with them 100% about the benefits of doing live instruction. Once again, my experiences are at the college level, and my college students are excited to get together. They literally, I'm not exaggerating, I had a class session and they stayed in the Zoom room for over an hour after class was over, because they just wanted to talk and they wanted to reconnect and they wanted to see people, and they're missing our experience that we had. You know, I used to have physical office hours where we'd come and we'd hang out after class and talk about the concepts, and they just want to be there. And not everyone does, by the way. People have lots of different situations, but one of the things that I realize that, you know, there are plenty of people here who are sort of quarantining by themselves, right? Who are still missing the social interaction. Those of us who are in houses full of people, I got 4 other people in my house. Sometimes I want to kind of find a little room in the corner by myself to try to, you know, have some space. But there are a number of my students who have shared with me, you know, I'm here by myself. And so the idea of getting online with you all is actually kind of cool to me, that I get to sit and see some people. And I think for me, even what we've tried to do with our instruction is to I don't sit and lecture them for 2 hours or anything like that, or lecture for an hour. We'll have, you know, some bit of lecturing, but a lot of discussion to engage. But literally the first 20 minutes of all of my class sessions that we have at the college level are, how are you doing? How are you managing this? Are you okay? What resources do you need? How can we connect together in community and support one another? Once again, I will agree with her again, just even the live instruction for that purpose, for the sort of social counseling, if you will, that benefit right there is worth it. And we ought to be doing it at some level, at all levels across the educational spectrum.
Yeah. I think that, just looking at some of the comments because I didn't want to lose them, many are in agreement that, you know, kids, and it just needs that social interaction. Just as you talked about, they'll want to just talk. She was saying that for parents, maybe we can start doing virtual play dates with our kids, right? I know Trey, he talks about that all the time. He's on his Google Classroom, like, can you get his phone number? Can you see what they're doing? Because for a lot of them, school isn't just about the instruction, right? It's about my friends, it's about we used to play at recess, you know, oh, this new thing came out, I want to share with them. And so again, how can we help one another? I think instruction wise, we talked a lot about it, but now we're talking about that interaction, right? Like you just said, some of us are at home by themselves, but for some of our kids, they're feeling like they're at home by themselves as well. Anyone else want to add to that point? If not, we're going to move on to the next.
I just want to go back by saying one parent, I think she hit the nail on the head. She talked about the fact of what is the school's philosophy. And I think that that's absolutely accurate. I think that parents should put their kids in a school where they agree with the philosophy of that school. That's really important. Like, will the school's values match the values that you're teaching at home? And so, you know, some of my kids started emailing me, parents started emailing me, you know, is this mandatory? And yeah, you know, I understand what the Illinois State Board of Education said, but let me say this, there was nothing optional about remote learning where I'm the administrator. There's nothing optional about my kids not being able to learn. We can work out the grading policy later. We can deal with all of that. But at no point will, parents have entrusted me to make sure that their kids are educated. So what do I look like saying that this is not mandatory or this is optional? Learning is not optional for our kids.
Everybody, we done with that one.
I know, you can drop the mic
I don't know
after
if there
that.
was a freeze or a mic drop happened right there. You know what I mean? It's like
That was definitely a mic drop.
yeah.
I wanted to just say this last piece, and then we'll go to the next piece for this. So, Kenya just wanted to mention human touch, even if it's virtually, is so essential to our mental stamina during this pandemic. Might as well before blooms. So I just think it's just so important that we are understanding that that is a necessary piece of this time. And so I'm very big about having these kind of conversations, but not for the sake of it. Like, what are we going to do? Right. And so as we've heard some resources shared. We've talked about just some of the things that we believe parents should do, what we believe we should do as individuals. This was actually a conversation that was spearheaded by a few people that's on this chat. We need to galvanize and come together and figure out what we're going to do next. So I personally have a call of action to our village. I'm very big about the only way you're able to be your best self is because of your village, not because you're working just with your teachers, working with your friends, but how can we work together? And so myself and another few people on this line are coming together with an initiative that we are going to call the Virtual Village. And so I put this up here as an email for people if they want to email and just let us know what are some things that they personally feel like they can do to help. I know that we have some brilliant minds on this live who may like, hey, I have some social emotional resources, or hey, I'm a teacher. I'm willing to help parents who need free tutoring for their kids. I do this. We are able to bring these resources. I put this email together as a place that people can respond as you're watching or afterwards of like, this is how I can help. Or I would love to connect with Dr. Skanes to see how I can help here, just so we can just keep each other connected as a village. But I want to give you all that things to think about, a call to action. What do you believe is what we need to do as our next steps in order to really address some of the things that have been talked about today?
I'll say quickly here, I think that if we were not convinced prior to this pandemic that the education of our children is our community's responsibility, I don't know what needs to happen to convince us of that. And organizations like yours and the other groups that people here are representing are critical. I hope and pray we never go back to business as usual, because we need these resources and this village, the virtual village, which I think some other people say they really like the idea. We need this all throughout our educational experience. The other thing I will say, and I will push back on what I see happening from an administrative level, because you've got to recognize the trends that are happening in the world. There are jobs that are lost now that will never come back. There is instructional changes, institutional changes the world's going to be very different. And what we have to do, and I know we're doing this at the college level, is we're pushing back against the idea that remote learning and face-to-face learning are equal in terms of their outcomes. One of the people in the comments section said, yes, that social community element is so critical. I think it still is, and we have to recognize that. I think even more now we see it. But my fear will be, particularly, in districts that are struggling in budgets, colleges that are struggling with enrollment, they will be able to take the model and say, well, shoot, we were online for 6 months. Why do we need to increase the level of, why do we need to bring back that face-to-face instruction at the same level? And we, I think, have to push back and recognize that though these are great tools and they're great supplemental tools, we are seeing firsthand why our children needed their community. They needed that face-to-face instruction. And we've got to make sure that we do not let this crisis change education to a point that is detrimental to what our students are trying to do. And I think that for me is very critical. But I'm with you in terms of call to action. this kind of organization, other organizations like it, we're staying together. And I think there are resources being shared right now. And that alone, ma'am, Ms. Jarima, is worth the time that we have spent, because there are people who are going to get access to things they would not have gotten access to. So I want to thank you for hosting this important conversation.
Thank you. Who wants to? What are some call to actions? The one thing I do want to share is that with us doing this virtual village, this is very grassroots. Like, this is literally a few of us just talking, and in particular, Shine, who's on this live, and she's really was the brainchild of like, look, we got some brilliant people all at home. We need to figure out some things, right? And we may not have the money, but someone who's watching, you may have the money that can support something, or you may not necessarily have the background in education, but you know the connection to help this particular area in the city. I think it's just so important that we just start thinking about what role do we play, because in the village, everyone doesn't play the same role, right? In some movements, some people were just the funders, others were the think tanks, the others were the actual executors. So I think it's so important that we realize that we all play an important role. So again, that was a reminder I wanted to put out here. This is very grassroots, very beginning stages, but necessary. I believe that because we, of course, no one knew a pandemic was coming. A lot of things have been reactive, but we already understand some proactive steps need to be taken, because as Ted just said, it's going to be impossible to go back to things being the same way. And so we need to kind of foresee, what does the summer look like, as Joe said? What should we be doing now to prepare for summer? What should we be doing now to prepare to get back to school? Any other call to actions that you think are imperative to talk about before we end this call?
Yeah,
if I can wait maybe one call. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Joe?
Joseph, you can go ahead.
Nope. Ladies first. I can wait.
Honey, you coming. All right. So a couple of things. So you started out with the question of how our administrators. So my first call to action is to administrators. There's no reason right now for you to be in this space of
I guess, man, this is an amazing conversation. I wish I would have joined you guys maybe a little earlier today, but I want to thank you so much for just having me on this call with you guys today. And I don't know if you know what you're doing, Jarima. I don't know if you know what you're doing, but this is organizing. You are pulling people from all around. So you are organizing right now, and this is what we need to tackle a lot of these issues that we talk about all the time, is organizing and getting people together with great minds to help bring this type of change. But what I will say is, you know, I'm hoping that although our parents can do so much, and I'm glad for the parents who's able to put in a nice amount of work, but I will say I hope CPS, and that's something that I'm going to try to email myself out about, but I hope that they maybe implement something throughout the summertime for those children who will be going to the next grade level, to at least still get some type of enrichment or something before they move to the next grade level, so they're just not in the next grade level and they're still learning. They're in the fourth grade now, but they're still literally was just like struggling through the third grade. So hopefully that they actually implement some things to kind of help build those kids up, so those kids can be somewhat closer when they do move into the next school year. And then on top of that, I would just say it was another piece I had to parents. Something just about this in particular, I honestly think parents have to have a voice at the table. Although I say we got PAC and we got LSC and PTA and all of this stuff, that's all good and cool, but it's still all up under what at least I guess the CTU, that may be just a little different, but realistically, like LSC and PAC and all that, it still goes right up under CPS. So parents have to have something totally different from that, where they're actually at the table, because there's decisions made about our children, and we don't have no talk. We're not in that room when CTU go in that room, and when everybody else go in there. Parents are just looking at the news to wait on results to come out, and it has to be some organization that's created bigger than PAC and LSC, because that's still under them, but something bigger than that, where parents really come together and say, no, this is what it is, you know. So parents really just have to have a voice at the table. And I'm fighting for that. I'm thinking of something called POC, Parents of Chicago. I don't know how good that's gonna go, but I just think parents need a voice no matter what.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback off of that. That was my call to action, is really to motivate and inspire parents to actually get involved as their own entity. And no matter what, like, please as the parents that you are, that you know your babies. Like, don't let anybody else tell you what's best for your child. You know, like, and it's okay for you to stand in that. And so I think, you know, in terms of call to action, it's not like go run out and use your stimulus check to buy a laptop or do all these other things. Give yourself grace, give your child grace, observe, you know, what they need, and then advocate. Your voice is the most important. And so you need to find ways in your schedule and all of that other stuff that's going on, ways for you to advocate in a way that's going to bring about the change that your babies need.
Yeah. Jasmine, go ahead. I know you was speaking. Go ahead.
It's all good. Thank you. So yeah, I was just going to say to administrators, right now is not a time to work in isolation. Reach out to your colleagues. Multiple minds can create some phenomenal things. And so administrators, please reach out to, your colleagues. I put my email in the chat. So if you're looking for someone to connect with, feel free to reach out because this is the time to start action planning for not just right now, but what's to come, right? So right now, we need to start thinking about, like Joseph said, how are we gonna utilize the summer to really support students for when they return? In terms of parents, I implore you, please, if you do nothing else, have your child read to you daily and have your child write daily. Dr. Skanes, that was all for you.
Thank you.
But definitely have your child reading to you daily. That is going to be a game changer. 15, 20 minutes a day. And then to our children who are watching and listening, it's okay for you to be sad. It's okay for you to be frustrated, but make sure that you don't get stuck there. And so this is an opportunity for you to learn some things that you may not be able to learn in school. This is a great opportunity for you to also build some relationships with positive people, be it peers or adults with your parents' consent who can really contribute positivity into your life and your education.
So my call to action looked a little bit different. I think that sometimes we don't we go to the action before we finish the brainstorming. I think that it might be beneficial to host another one or two of these sessions to really hear from parents, to encourage students to get on and to ask questions. So to Jillian's point about how can we hear what the people are saying, what the people are feeling each week in this quarantine brings on a different feeling, a different emotion, a different thought. And so what I think this Monday will be different than what I think next Monday, and it was different than what I thought last Monday. So, Jereme, I know we're stepping on your schedule, but
I'm for it.
have another conversation or two, maybe bring in the teachers to hear their opinion. But for us to really just be in the space of not being so quick to do something, but just being in the space to be together and to listen and to learn, so that when we put that plan together, it has really it brings in the voice of all of the stakeholders. And then, you know what, be fair again. I gotta keep reiterating this. This is so important to me. I have 3 kids too. So look, I get it, doing this and having kids at home. And my dog is clingy these days too. So, I get all of that, but be fair with your kids, and my call, if I had to give a call to action today, teachers and administrators, be fair with families. This enormous amount of work that I'm seeing that's going out to parents, it's ridiculous. My task to my teachers is 1 to 2 assignments per week per class, 1 live instruction. That's enough. At high school, they should be working right around 3 or 4 hours a day. That's enough. We got to get back to being fair for families. We get upset because we say families don't engage, but then we give them all of these requirements we don't allow time for them to just be family. So be fair and understand that people are under stress.
I love it. I'm loving it because, as you all said, really when this was put on my heart to have this conversation, I knew that beautiful things would happen. How it would happen, I didn't know. I just knew that there needed to be a conversation to be had. And just looking at the chats has been so encouraging. I mean, we got administrators sharing insight. We got teachers that are sharing resources. giving ideas for the next talk. I love this idea. Nate just said, like, hey, I definitely think we should have these conversations, and maybe creating some doc where people can give their responses their questions earlier, so you all can kind of chew and think about the responses and come back with some information. But I truly, truly, truly am looking forward to it. And I'm just putting it out there. We'll be back next Monday. And next Monday, I'm going to bring some students. So if you're watching, parents, and you have children who want to be a part of this conversation, if you are a teacher, you want to be a part of this conversation. I saw a few people here, like, I'm a CPS vendor, I do SEL, I'll be willing to help. If you are a partner in the community that wants to be a part of this conversation, I think as many different people at the table talking about the same thing, we're going to have ideas and things that come up that none of us thought of, right? Just because of just having these kind of conversations. So from this, I have definitely left with some inspiring thoughts and some next steps that I would love to do. But I truly take into what you said, Dr. Skanes. We need to, at this time, do a little bit more listening than talking. I think it's been some quick decision making, but we also need to just kind of hear what people need and what they think needs to do. So again, as you see at the bottom, the virtual Village 2020, if you want to be a part of any of these conversations, email us. If you are a part of any resources, email us. If you want to help in any way and you already have some ideas and maybe your organization is already working on some things. Something else I've learned, and this will be the last thing I say, doing this work, is so many independent nonprofits doing work, and we would increase our impact if we did more collaboration than this whole, like, this is my area, invite you to my event. But how about we just do the event together? Let's do the work together. We increase our impact. The families that I work with, you can have an impact on, and vice versa. And so that's another thing. If you already have some things in the ball rolling, you just got a whole lot of other people that want to be a part of the movement as well. So I'm excited. Thank you going down the road. You all are so dope. I love y'all so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your pushbacks. And this is going to be a continual conversation.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to meet you all. Good to work with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Be well.
Thank you. You all take care.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.